Unboxing and review of the Xsonic Airstep Lite. This came from the Xsonic website. However, it's available at most online music stores as well as Amazon. So if you decided you were interested in buying this product, you'd be wise searching for the best outlet in your country. On the website, you'll notice it's got two very similar products, the Airstep and the Airstep Lite. Now the Airstep is more or less twice the price of the Airstep Lite, but it has a lot more options for connecting it to devices. The package it arrived in was a padded airbag, so let's open it up and see what's inside. I'll speed this bit up so the video doesn't go on too long. Inside the padded airbag is another layer of bubble wrap, so let's get through this. And underneath the bubble wrap is a cardboard box, so we're nearly there. It's a bit like pass the parcel, isn't it? And inside the first cardboard box is another cardboard box that obviously contains the Airstep Lite. So there's absolutely nothing to complain about regarding the packaging. This would be really safe, no matter how careless your postman is. And I need to emphasize at this point, this is the Airstep Lite, which is considerably cheaper than the Airstep and has far less facilities on it for connecting to devices. Right, let's get it out of the final box so we can take a good look at it. In the box with the pedal is a card with their Instagram link on and a QR code, and also a Facebook user group, again with a QR code, so you can access their special offers and stuff, I assume. I'll put that information down below in the description in case you want to take a look at those yourself. Also in there is a sheet of stickers that you can use to stick on the pedal itself, so that when you've decided on the functions, you can remember which function is attached to which button. And the last thing in the box, which is probably the most important, is the quick start. Right, let's get the Airstep out of the bag. And this was a harder job than I first thought because it was sealed tight. Straight away you can tell it's well made because it's really solid and heavy. Now I've got it out of the bag and you can see it clearly. You can see it's a very simple, straightforward device. There's just the 5 foot switches on the top. There's a function button on the back, a power switch, a power supply socket, and a small aerial for the Bluetooth to give it more range. Inside the box, underneath the Airstep and the paperwork, was another smaller box which contained a lead, and this is a USB to the Airstep for charging it up. So, as I always do when I buy any item that's got a rechargeable battery in it, I'll charge it up first before I do any tests. And when you plug it into the USB, the LED on the back of the unit goes red. However, after maybe half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, that changed to green. So Xsonic had obviously sent it out partially charged, which most companies seem to do these days anyway. Right, let's take an overview of the quality of the device. And firstly, testing the foot switches. They're really solid and they give a good solid click. It's obviously been put together using quality components, because these don't feel cheap at all. And the outer case is solid as well. You could stand on this with all your weight and it would take it. And looking around the back at the power switch and the function switch and the antenna, everything's really solid. So this wouldn't break very easily at all. It would survive quite a lot of abuse. In fact, this is one of those devices that could easily outlast whatever you've bought it to control. Looking at the quick start guide, it's clearly designed to be set up using a smart device and the Bluetooth. In fact, if you look through the instructions, 3 pages of the 6 pages is how to use the app. So I better download the application, and I'm going to install it on an Android smartphone. And the app is the same for both the Airstep and the Airstep Lite. And it's probably easiest to find just using the QR code in the quick start guide. However, you can also find the app really easy doing a search for Airstep or Xsonic Airstep using the Google Play Store if you're an Android user. And in fact, because all the features are actually from within the app, even before you buy the Airstep Lite, I'd recommend you download the app and take a look through it. And this will give you a really good comprehensive idea of what it's capable of. But to save you having to do that, let's take a look through the app. Looking at the first page of the app, it's worth noting that it contains the settings for an Airstep as well as the Airstep Lite. So at least half of the first page can be ignored because it doesn't apply to the Airstep Lite. Before we take a more in-depth look at this first screen, let's take a look at the presets. And you'll find the presets by pressing on the 3 lines at the top left-hand side of the screen. Now you can have 5 presets saved to the pedal at any one time, and these are selected using the function key. And you can obviously edit these before you save them to the pedal to make sure they're perfect for your needs. And the 5 presets that are saved to the pedal are the first 5 in the preset list. Scrolling through these presets, there's approximately 6.5 pages of them on my phone. So, rather than me reading all the presets out, I'll just scroll through them 1 page at a time and pause on each page so you can take a proper look at them. And if necessary, you can pause the video. And that way you can see if there's anything there that's useful to yourself. Right, here we go then. Page 1. And this page includes the presets that are saved to the pedal. So these will repeat further down the list. And you can see Acrobat Reader there. Page 2. And you can see Cubase for both Mac and Windows in there. Page 3. And in this list there's quite a lot of hardware, which hopefully don't need a smart device apart from for the setup. Page 4. On this page I think GarageBand and Guitar Pro would be fairly familiar to most people. Page 5. And on this page you can see they've covered the 3 different versions of Spark. Page 6. On this page, I think for myself Studio One would be useful, but you'll also notice at the bottom there it's got video lessons. And the last couple, page 7. And down in the last part of the list is something that most people watching this video might find useful, and that's the ability to control YouTube from the foot pedal. And this could be really useful if you're doing guitar lessons from YouTube, or you want to play along with the videos. And this reinforces my thoughts on this pedal, that it's a lot more than just for controlling guitar effects, as you can set the configuration to do more or less anything you need it for. Yet at the same time it could be quite limited as a guitar effects switcher, as your device would have to have Bluetooth in order to communicate with it. Or at least the device would have to be connected to something Bluetooth, for example, your computer or a smart device. Right, let's go back to the home screen and take a look at the Airstep Lite settings. These settings are around the middle of the screen, and you can see they're headed Lite. And each of the columns represents one of the foot switches on your Airstep. And if I press on one of these, you'll see it opens up the parameter for that particular foot switch. And I think this is where the Airstep particularly shines, because in those settings you can set virtually every aspect of the way the button behaves. And you can make it a single push trigger, or you can turn it into a toddle, or you can toddle between several buttons, and you can even control how the LED behaves or turn it off altogether. And you can see as this one's currently set up, the instructions are set up as HID, which is a standard keyboard protocol, which means this instruction can be read on a PC or on a Mac or on an Android device. So the device would recognize the Airstep as being a keyboard, and therefore you can set up each foot switch as a particular key on a keyboard. So you can see on this particular setup, the key value is set up as space. And if I was to press on the key value, you can see it opens up a whole keyboard here. And I can alter that key value quite easily. And I can even include modifiers like Control and Alt, or even Control Alt and the letters. So it doesn't take much imagination to think of ways to use these functions in other applications. And it doesn't stop there, because you can send out several messages from one pedal. So for example, a short press will send out one message, whereas if you hold the pedal down for a while, it will send out a different message. And this influenced how I set up the pedal for testing it, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's just one last thing I want to show you from within the app. If we go back to the first page of the app, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen there, it says touch here to connect to the Airstep. So if I touch there, you can see I've got the Airstep Lite, and I just touch that and it'll connect straight away. So now when I return to the first page of the app, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the bottom of the screen. And this refers to the presets that are saved into the pedal itself. So now I can change those to different presets or alter the preset from within the app and then save it to the pedal from here. Right, to test the Airstep Lite, I've actually set it up as a HID device. And here's how I've set it up. Pedal 1 is a down arrow, and if you keep it pressed, it'll page down. Pedal 2 is enter. Pedal 3 is an up arrow, and if you keep it held down, it'll page up. Pedal 4 is system volume up, and pedal 5 is system volume down. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there thinking, that's a weird setup. So I'll explain now why I've done it this way. The first reason is I mainly use a PC, and I really dislike the way this has to connect to the computer. It has to go through two pieces of software. The first application is MIDI, and this reads the Airstep Lite through the Bluetooth and converts this into a form that your computer can read. The second application is Loop MIDI, and this creates a virtual MIDI port on your computer so that your DAW or any other music software can read it, and then it can read the signal that's being captured by MIDI. So you can see it's a really convoluted way of doing things, but it does work. However, in my mind, the more pieces of software you've got running in the background, the higher your chances of increasing latency or causing errors in recordings. And for those of you who haven't dabbled in computer music yet, latency is where you get a slight delay in the signal. So say I was to play the guitar into the computer, there'd be a slight delay between me actually playing the instrument and hearing it. And it can be quite off-putting. Hopefully you could hear the latency in that example. By configuring the pedal to send HID messages, the PC reads these without any additional software, and so does a Mac and so does an Android. So it's far easier to go between devices and between software. And best of all, I don't need to run MIDI berry or loop MIDI, which means there's far less chance of recording errors or latency. To demonstrate this, I'm navigating up and down inside a Word document, and also operating the volume up and down on my PC. And this is without any additional software. And remember, this is just how I set up the Airstep Lite, so you can configure it to do any instructions or keystrokes you choose to. Using the same setup, you can see here I can control the volume on both an Android device and my PC at the same time. And for any YouTubers out there, if you're using 2 or 3 mobile phones to record the video, you can start and stop them at exactly the same time using one of these pedals. Now, the reason I chose the up arrow and the page up and the down arrow and the page down and the enter key as my main 3 buttons is because these are by far the most common keys I use when using audio software. And I'll just demonstrate that to you now. And where I'd need to use these commands would be when I'm recording using virtual instruments. And I use a MIDI keyboard which is connected to the virtual instrument, and then to go through the different sounds I'd have to use the up and down key, and then I'd use the enter key to select the sound. So whilst you're doing this, you're having to go back and forward between the music keyboard and the computer keyboard, whereas using the foot pedal I can stay in front of the music keyboard without having to move. And to demonstrate this, I've been going through the sound libraries of Native Instruments Massive, Absynth and FM8. And I've also tried other software synths with equally positive results. I've also tested it out with Native Instruments Guitar Rig, and I've tried it with version 5 and version 6, and it works perfectly with both. Finally, I tested the Airstep Lite through some hardware that was being controlled through the computer. For example, here I'm operating the Line 6 Helix rack mount, and it's working perfectly. And it also works with the Pod X3 Pro and the Behringer Pro rack mounts, as long as you use the computer controllers. But this obviously wouldn't be a practical solution for gigging unless you use a laptop on stage. And something else I can confirm, but I couldn't show on video for practical reasons, and that's the fact that it's got a really good Bluetooth range. Here's my conclusion of the Xsonic Airstep Lite. So, the positives first. This is a really well made solid device, and the components are really solid as well. The foot switches feel really solid and have a really good click to them, but you could still use it on the desk with your fingers quite easily if you wanted to. The rechargeable batteries in the Airstep have a really good life, and they claim you can use the unit for 300 hours continuous use between charges, which is pretty amazing, and I have no reason to doubt that's not true. The footswitch functions are really comprehensive, and you can more or less control every aspect of the function of the footswitch and the message it's sending. So this obviously makes it really useful and really powerful. The Bluetooth signal strength and range are more than adequate, and I can't imagine many people finding an issue with this. I certainly couldn't. Now for the negatives. The first negative is the learning curve. And I had this pedal for over a week before I even started doing the review, because it took me a while just to get my head around it. But most of the lessons I've learnt that got me going on it I've included in this video. And the main thing is to learn your way around the app. However, once you've found your way around the app and set the pedal up the way you want it, because it's then saved into the pedal, theoretically you should never have to touch the settings again. And there's also the proviso that different people have different knowledge sets, so you might find this a lot easier to get your head round than I did. Another thing I didn't like was the fact that it had to go through 2 separate pieces of software before it could communicate with my computer. However, as you saw in this video, there is a way around this. But in fairness, this is more a problem caused by Windows and not by the device, as they're a little bit behind on Bluetooth technology. However, I don't think it'll be long before Microsoft supports Bluetooth MIDI devices, because there's quite a lot of them out there now. And finally, and this isn't a negative or a positive, it's just an important note. Remember, you can only connect this device using Bluetooth. So if there's no way of connecting your device to a Bluetooth device, then it won't work. If you do need that kind of extra connectivity, you'd have to spend a little bit more and get the full Airstep and not the Airstep Lite. Okay, I think I've covered everything I can possibly cover on this pedal, and I hope this gives you a good idea of its functionality if you're thinking of buying one. If you enjoyed this video and enjoy in-depth reviews as well as guitar lessons, please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then you'll be notified when I upload new videos. You'll also help the channel grow, which means I can make new videos. And if you're looking for lots of free guitar lessons, visit www.ebooks4guitar.com. Thank you very much for watching.